Hi, my name is Connor Woods, and I sing for NONPAREIL. I wanted to say thank you for inviting us onto your website for this interview. The questions are very interesting, and I'm looking forward to answering them. So, I guess I'll just get started. First question you asked was, how did we come to create NONPAREIL? And also, you mentioned that it has a different approach to music than some of our previous bands. Well, I guess to keep it, short and concise, the guys have been playing in the band for a little while. They've written the music and they've written the songs, and they've kind of been sitting on them for about a year or two. And then I moved to Phoenix in 2014, and I ran into a couple of the guys at a bar. We knew each other a long time ago. They asked me if I was doing anything musically, and I said no. And it kind of just worked. So I came and I tried out a couple times, and we jammed a little bit, and it just seemed that the chemistry was already there, and it was worth our while to continue with it. With that said, I think the approach has been pretty similar to most of our other bands. We just come in and do what we do well and focus on the things that we know we can do. And I think our styles have just progressed as we get older and have had different musical experiences. So I guess that's about how it came to be, just like any other band, really, right? A bunch of friends meet up and start writing songs. So the next question you asked was, what's the status of your previous bands? Which projects remain active? I think with a lot of us, the four that are in the band now have our hands in a lot of different things. Our drummer plays in probably 6 or 7 different bands. 2 very active, Treasure Mammal and Roar. So he's definitely in several active bands at the time. Darren, our guitar player, I think is solely playing in NONPAREIL. The Blood broke up a long time ago. His most recent band, of the Painted Choir, broke up about a year or 2 ago. So I think he's mostly just doing NONPAREIL, as far as I know. I don't know. John, our bass player, same thing, just NONPAREIL. Past bands are defunct, not active anymore. And about the same thing with me. I've been in a handful of bands over the past 15 years, and some come and go, some last longer, some aren't so serious. So at this time, the only thing that is serious and active for me is NONPAREIL. I do side stuff, here and there. I haven't done it in a while, but write my own music just for me, not for anything else, really. So I guess that's what we're doing. There's always opportunities, I think, in the future for other bands to get back together and do a show or two. But nothing planned right now. The band I was in prior to NONPAREIL, I played bass in a band called Brass Hands, and they're still functioning out of Tucson, very active, and they write some killer music. So go check them out. I don't know their website off the top of my head, but Brass Hands. Okay. With that said, number 3, you asked. You wanted me to expound a little bit on the idea of the band's sound on the album that we're putting out, Allergen. You asked if it was a struggle to put these tunes together and if we're happy with the final result. Well, let me just say it wasn't a struggle to put the songs together because we do it for fun and we're friends and we have chemistry. So the songs are just a good expression, catharsis, so on and so forth. All those cliches. So it doesn't really challenge us in a way that I would classify as a struggle. I think it more challenges us in a way that makes us happy to be doing it. So I definitely would never ever define it as a struggle. I think it's been really easy in a lot of ways to work our ideas out with one another. The album was written with our drummer and bass player, or drummer and guitar player that aren't in the band anymore. But at the time, same thing. We had perfect chemistry with them, and it was just a lot of fun to get into the jam space and write the songs. So I'm very, very happy with the end result. I think we did the best with what was available, and we really, really focused in on making it sound personally unique and distinctive in our own perceptions. With that said, let's go to the next one. Lyric-wise, you asked, the record was inspired by my Chinese travels. And then you asked, how do I view China after living there, and if I could provide a close-up analysis of the society. Well, again, I don't want to sound too cliche, but the lyrics aren't inspired by one thing in particular. It's just life experience, and I don't write to, I don't set out when I write something to say that this is what I'm going to write about. I have to get it out right now. It typically just comes organically. A lot of times I like to write in the space while the band is working on the new song, to let the song kind of influence wherever my mind goes. So with that, yeah, I guess you could say it was inspired by what happened in China, or our time in China, I should say. And I think most definitely it's pervasive throughout the ideas, simply because I was fresh off of that and it was still on my mind. And yeah, I did get a chance to really, I don't want to say, okay, let me rephrase that. I did get a chance to observe deep China and the daily societal structure and routines and attitudes of people and so on and so forth. So I think there's a lot of introspection due to the fact that I was a foreigner, clearly, and very, very rare in the area we were. A 6'4" white guy with a beard and a bunch of tattoos is not a normal everyday encounter for deep Chinese people in the country, in Hebei province where we lived. So due to that, I became slightly isolated because I wasn't very good at Chinese. I didn't learn it very well. I could have made more of an effort to integrate. I know that now. But it being isolated in my mind, almost self-imposed, you might say, created a lot of opportunity for introspection and thoughts about why we're here, how we got here, what we've done in the past, what we want to do in the future. In my 30s now, I've gone through quite a bit of adversity, so some of it, I think, is still unresolved. So if I have moments of introspection, the unresolved issues can manifest and can also force you to really, really take a look at yourself, for lack of a better explanation. So, with that said, that's how those ideas came to fruition, I suppose. Then you asked, do you follow politics a lot? How would you assess the impact of the Western countries, including the U.S., to Chinese national interests? I'm not going to say I follow politics a lot or all that closely, to be honest. I'm not all that well versed in foreign policy and the machinations of diplomacy. However, I mean, I know some surface level stuff. And I think the impact, I guess just from my limited ability to observe of the Western countries, U.S. included, the Chinese national interest, could be reflected in social interaction, the way that the students that we taught at a college in a city called Baoding outside of Beijing. So the people we taught were typically 18 to 21, 22. You could see that they admire Western pop culture quite a bit. Yet there's obvious disconnects where they have the wrong picture of what it's like, or they've been provided information that's not fully fleshed out about how Western countries really are. So they tend to glorify some things about us that aren't necessarily true. But I think that could be the case in any, in any other country perceiving another country from across the world that they haven't had much open communication with for decades anyway. So I don't hold any of that against any of those people. I think there's still a very wide gap of cultural understanding between our two countries, so there's room for a lot of misunderstandings, but there's also room for a lot of growth. So, with that said, I keep on saying with that said, sorry, I lost the lyrics. I think that the U.S. has a massive impact on what happens in China, and I think China's grown quite a bit since, the 70s and the Cultural Revolution, and really expanded into this global, the global type culture that's attempting to integrate with the rest of the world, and doing a pretty good job of it. Especially when you go to cities like Beijing, you can see it there quite a bit. I think China, as far as, again, with my limited base of knowledge, I think China's impacted greatly by foreign business and politics. I mean, they've been open to other countries now for quite a while, so it's not really that foreign of a concept that China would be influenced by other, superpowers or even smaller countries. And I think they make very rational decisions as far as politics are concerned that I know, again, with my limited knowledge. I don't really feel comfortable saying much else other than that because I don't have, like I said, a depth of knowledge as far as that's concerned. So, is Chinese independence and distinctness from Western society still intact, is a question you asked. I think absolutely. I think if anything, I know they're fiercely proud of their culture, and I think that's justified because it's a 5,000 year, roughly, civilization that's still in existence, that still thrives. Nowhere else on the face of the planet will you find that. So I think that's highly interesting and really, really beautiful. Next question you asked was, how does modern Chinese independent music, including the punk rock movement, differ from the American scene? Did you somehow get involved in the Chinese music? And please expound a bit. Well, actually that was really difficult for us because we lived in a city that was outside of Beijing. It was a second or third tier? Third tier city, Chinese city, meaning that it's right in the middle class, I guess you could say, if there are classes in the society. But regardless, it's not the biggest city, it's not the second biggest city, it's just somewhere in the middle. 10 to 12 million people live there. But it was still far enough removed from any metropolises or global hubs or anything, international hubs. So it was still very sheltered from the influence of punk rock or independent music. What I mean to say is that there really wasn't any independent music in Baoding. We lived there for a year and I couldn't find any shows. There were no venues. There was nothing like that. There was a band that played at our school, but it was mostly karaoke. Like they were playing music and then people would sing karaoke over it. So there's a high interest in music for sure, but there's just not a lot of it where we lived. I can't really say what the reasons for that is. I think there's still a lot of conservatism in the country, so people might be afraid of that kind of thing, or they're just not ready for it, or it just hasn't happened yet, or maybe it's just not necessary. So I'm not really sure. But in Beijing, that's an international city, so a lot of international bands come through. We saw Caspian play there once, and that was fantastic. It sold out. The venue was really cool. It kind of reminded me of punk rock venues from where I'm from the 90s, when I grew up. Had a nice vibe to it. People were open. There were several local bands that opened up. One was basically like a Rancid cover band. The guys were dressed in full leather suits, the whole outfit and everything, and patches and all that. I think they even covered a Rancid song, but all Chinese guys. Then there's another band that was basically a butt rock band, Chinese band, and they were all on the same bill. And there's another band that sounded almost identical to television and had the whole get-up of the guys in television too. It looked like they were straight from the early 90s, and they were fucking badass. So I think it's there. I think the ideas are there. It's just going to take time to expand. I was never able to get involved. I tried talking to some of the guys, but again, I'm not very good with Chinese at all. And that's my own fault. I should have gotten better at it. Had I been better at it, maybe I would have been able to talk to some of the guys. But there is a documentary made about the punk rock scene in Beijing. The name escapes me now. It's about an hour long, and you kind of get a bird's eye view into this little punk rock burgeoning scene that happened about 5 years ago. And again, I don't really know if it's still around or not. I did find a really cool metal record store in Beijing, though. That was cool. Anyways, okay, going back to NONPAREIL. Apart from your upcoming single shows, okay, so you're asking about our shows. Currently, it's March 2nd. We have about 3 shows booked right now in and around the state of Arizona. We've kind of juggled around ideas of doing, 4 or 5 days here and there. As far as European plans are concerned, that's not something that we're really talking about yet. It doesn't mean that it couldn't happen, though. So that'd be nice to get out there. With that said, what's next for us? Well, we're writing a whole batch of songs. I know we got this EP coming out next month. We're really excited about it. We want to play as much as we can. It's a lot of fun being in this band. A lot of fun. And it's very rewarding because we feel like the output is something that shows growth and uniqueness. And it feels good to play it. So we have a new batch of songs. We're going to write 5 or 6 more and then record a record. And hopefully from there, who knows? So thanks again for this opportunity. It's been interesting, and see you later.